The Mother Principle. In the book, Who Am I?, Bhagavan says that one who operates without egoism will look upon every woman as the universal mother. So, how did the universal mother look after her son? After his death experience in Madurai, Bhagavan often went to the Meenakshi temple there. He would stand in front of Mother Meenakshi's idol for hours, looking at her eyes. Tears would flow from his eyes. Significantly, Meenakshi means one with fish-like eyes, since in the Hindu scriptures, they describe three kinds of spiritual initiations. One of them is the way of the fish. The fish is said to have the power of hatching its eggs by just looking at them. Therefore, the inner meaning of the name Meenakshi is the mother who blesses or initiates with her eyes. The unique gift that Mother Meenakshi gave her son Venkataraman, the future Bhagavan, was the power to initiate and bless his devotees with just his look. In fact, almost every devotee of Bhagavan has talked about how the very first look from him pushed them inwards and gave them a never-before experience of joy, peace, and silence. This was why, even on his last day, Bhagavan insisted that devotees be allowed to have his darshan, to give each one of them his final look of blessing. After he came from Madurai to Tiruvannamalai, Bhagavan was in a state of unbroken natural samadhi. While he was absorbed thus at the Pathala Linga cellar, the dark and dank underground niche in the Arunachala Shiva temple, his body was feasted on by insects and vermin, while he himself remained without food or care. The Divine Mother, by her grace, first sent Ratnammal. Ratnammal was a young dancer who was looked down upon by society. One day she saw some urchins throwing stones into the Pathala Linga cellar. She went inside and saw a dim figure sitting with a faint halo surrounding it. Concerned about how this young ascetic could sustain himself, she brought food and fresh clothes and left them at the entrance. Her offerings remained untouched as Bhagavan was lost in samadhi. Later, Seshadri Swami discovered Bhagavan, brought him out, and instructed a temple priest to give milk to Bhagavan. This priest brought milk not from Father Arunachala Shiva's shrine, but from Mother Apitha Kuchambal's shrine, which was next to his. This milk, poured on Mother's idol along with turmeric, soap nut powder, and ghee, was the first prasad Mother gave him. As Bhagavan was still in samadhi and not outwardly conscious, the priest opened his mouth and poured in Mother's milk, the first food that sustains. When Bhagavan resumed body consciousness, he stayed under an ulupal tree in the temple premises, where he remained in samadhi, only rarely coming to outward consciousness. Once, when Ratnammal was on her way to a dance performance, she noticed Bhagavan seated there. Turning to her mother, she said, I will not eat until we have served this ascetic some food. They tried to wake Bhagavan up, but in vain. So they opened his mouth and put the food in. Sometimes he would swallow it. At other times, the food would remain in his mouth, and they would clean it up the next day. Bhagavan later said, "This is the Universal Mother represented by Ratnammal." He also once told Sri Nagama, a devotee of later times, some 35 years later, Ratnammal was pure. Bhagavan has never used such a description for anyone but Ratnammal. He explained that this was not a moral or physical purity he referred to, but to the fact that even in those days, she had the capacity to recognize the divine before her. The Universal Mother was sustaining him. When Bhagavan was moving from the temple to Guru Murtam cave, he told Ratnammal, "Why go through the trouble of coming there? It is too far." She agreed and obeyed. Meenakshiammal. When Bhagavan went to Guru Murtam, a lady named Meenakshiammal started serving him. Although her outward appearance was like that of a Rakshasi, a demoness, her heart was clear and pure. Every day she would go round the hill, go home, cook food, and bring it to Bhagavan and feed him. She would bring along a few other ladies as well. Each one liked to give food to Bhagavan, to the extent that he felt it was excessive. Bhagavan never liked to waste anything. Soon he moved to a mango tree grove in the next compound. Its owner prevented everyone other than Palani Swami and Bhagavan from coming inside. Meenakshiammal holds the honor of being the first person to give an oil bath to Bhagavan after he came to Tiruvannamalai. Bhagavan related how one day when he was in Guru Murtam, Meenakshiammal brought a vessel and started boiling water. Bhagavan said, "I thought she was going to cook." She then opened her bag, took out some oil and soap nut powder, and said, "Swami, come, I want to give you a bath." Bhagavan kept quiet in his usual manner. She pulled him by the hand, made him sit down, and forced the oil bath on him. Bhagavan very humorously puts it, "When she touched my hair, there were stones and dust in it." 1.5 years after coming to Tiruvannamalai, this was the first proper bath that Bhagavan had. His whole body had been unwashed and dirty. Sent by the Universal Mother, Meenakshiammal gave this bath to Bhagavan. Later, when Bhagavan was still in Guru Murtam, he told Palani Swami that they should go to their separate way and beg food in different direction. He would go through the streets of Tiruvannamalai, stand in front of a house, and clap his hands, as noted previously. In response, the woman of the house would come out with food. Day after day, house after house, street after street, Bhagavan begged for food. He received food from every woman of the house. Without a doubt, it was the Universal Mother looking after her son. Desurammal. When Bhagavan was at Virupaksha cave, a lady named Akhilammal came from a village called Desura. Bhagavan and the others began to call her Desurammal. As Akilanda Amal was a bit too long of a name. Desurammal had seen Bhagavan in 1896, when Bhagavan was in a state of samadhi and the priest had poured milk into his mouth. Desurammal witnessed it and went back to her village without getting Bhagavan's blessings, as his eyes were closed. Not being able to stay away, she came back to Tiruvannamalai after 7 years. She was a very devout person and served food to all the sadhus, including Seshadri Swami and Swami Vitoba of Pulur. It was in 1903 when she returned. She was plucking flowers at the foot of Arunachala. A crowd was going up to the banyan tree cave, which is below Virupaksha cave. She asked, "Where are all of you going?" And someone replied, "Oh, there is an ascetic boy who does not talk, doesn't even move, but there is such peace, such grace there." Desurammal also went to the cave. She saw Bhagavan seated there. This is what she had to say about Bhagavan. Even though he was unwashed and covered with dust, his body had a golden glow. On seeing this ascetic, with his body frame so lean that it exposed his bones, my heart melted and tears welled up within me. The young Lord then opened his eyes and graciously directed them at me. Instantaneously, I surrendered myself totally and took a vow to serve food to this yoni all my life. When Bhagavan moved to Virupaksha cave, she served food to him there. Bhagavan rarely ate alone, so she brought food for others like Palani Swami and Perumal Swami. Earlier, they begged for food, but after Mother Desurammal came, there was no dearth of food during lunch for Bhagavan. She was so captivated by Bhagavan's presence that she came with food every day without fail. Later, two other ladies that will be talked about in the next chapters, Echamal and Mudalar Pati, also started feeding Bhagavan. Assured that Bhagavan would be regularly fed, Desurammal went back to her village and started a Ramana center there in 1914. It was called Ramana Ananda Mandalam. Her devotion was so deep that she was always there, observing Bhagavan's teachings and giving expositions about them from the depth of her own experience. Whenever any of the devotees of Bhagavan at Virupaksha cave fell sick, she would take them to Desur, give them medical aid, and take care of them. When they had fully recovered, she would escort them back to Virupaksha cave. Kunju Swami told me that whenever Desurammal came to Arunachala, in addition to whoever had been feeding Bhagavan, she would also feed them. Bhagavan was very pleased with her. Her first observation about Bhagavan was that he was the only saint she had fed who shared his food equally with others. The second thing she noticed was that the food was shared equally, not only with just the people around him, but also with dogs and monkeys and birds. She once narrated a humorous incident about Nandi, the monkey. He was always given a seat next to Bhagavan. While she was serving the master one day, Nandi snarled at her, and Bhagavan chided him. "Hey, she is one of us. She belongs to our clan. Keep quiet." The monkey then accepted her as one amongst them. Kunju Swami impressed on me that Bhagavan did not merely express gratitude to everyone who fed him. Bhagavan shared with them the purest teaching, one that would completely release them from bondage. Once, when Desurammal came to Skanda ashram, a sadhu told her, "Today is a full moon day. It is the most powerful day for getting initiation. In Bhagavan, you have a perfect jnani. So, ask Bhagavan for initiation today." Induced by this sadhu, she prostrated before Bhagavan, who rarely gave initiation. He asked her, "What do you want, Desurammal?" And she said, "Bhagavan, you have to initiate me with some mantra." "Oh, you want a mantra?" Then, becoming serious, he sat down and said in Tamil, "Unai vidadu uiru," which means, remain without leaving yourself. Desurammal said that he did not just say that and leave. He looked at her and transfixed her with his silent grace, riveting his look on her for nearly an hour. He also gave her the inner knowledge of how to remain without giving up the experience of the self. Even after Bhagavan came down to settle at the foot of the hill, she used to bring food every day. One day, Bhagavan told her, "Desurammal, there is enough food here." Beseechingly, she said, "Bhagavan, I want to feed you." And he replied, "Bring your provisions and leave them in the kitchen. They will cook, and we will share all." From then on, whenever she came, she would bring some rice or dal and leave it in the kitchen. During the last days of Bhagavan, when Bhagavan was to drop the body, Desurammal was quite old and very infirm. Yet, since she could not remain without having a last darshan and a last look, this mother went to him. Bhagavan was in what is now called the Nirvana room. Nobody recognized Desurammal because the whole management had changed. She was prevented from entering. Fortunately, Kunju Swami recognized her and told Bhagavan, who exclaimed, "Desurammal, bring her here, bring her inside." When she went in, she wept, seeing Bhagavan's physical condition, and Bhagavan said, "Why do you feel sorry for this mortal body? Naan yaposudam un Bhagavan thani. Am I not always your Bhagavan?" These words of solace were not only for Desurammal, they were for whoever turns to Bhagavan as the image of Father, Mother, Guru, or God, the assurance that He is their Savior and is ever present.